What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to 49er First Takes. I am here. I got to stop calling you a special guest because we might be doing something in the future. I'm going to say future co-host Sterling Bennett. We're going to touch on one of his latest mock drafts. Don't know if it's his final mock draft.
It is not.
So we're going to touch on that. We'll touch on a little bit of 49er news and have a little bit of fun. We always make stupid references to things that only me and Sterling understand. So we'll do all that and more. But man, welcome back to the channel.
Oh, it's good to be here. It's a good Friday for all those religious folks out there, but also it's WrestleMania weekend, so we're having a great time celebrating. Maybe Stone Cold comes back. John Cena took a heel turn. Maybe I take a heel turn tonight. Who knows with the San Francisco 49er mock draft? But Aaron, happy to be here and happy to talk NFL draft with you because this has been one of the more polarizing and confusing draft processes we've seen in a long time.
I feel like it's been a really long draft process too. This feels like draft season's taken a while. I think because the season ended so early for us, essentially ended in November. I think 49er fans have been kind of grasping at whatever news they can get their hands on. And mock draft season has been, I mean, even I did some mock drafts, but that was like 4 weeks ago. You know what I mean? It's just been that long that we've really seen anything on the television 49er related that wasn't super depressing or just outright just infuriating from last year. Let's get into a little bit of news before we start this mock draft stuff. One of the things that was talked about, I guess you could say on X or across X and other content creators, was the latest non-news news with the Brock Purdy situation. They're not close. The sides are apart on money. Go figure. It's contract negotiations. Looks like the 49ers have their number. Looks like his side has a little bit of a higher number, around 55 million. Is there really anything new to talk about other than the fact that it seems like everybody else gets their deals done without any fanfare except for the 49ers?
Yeah, I think maybe the one thing you can kind of get into is, what could be holding up a deal, but anybody expecting a contract to be done between Brock Purdy and the San Francisco 49ers, at this point in time, you got to recheck and kind of recalibrate your expectations because we thought maybe earlier on in the offseason around the Super Bowl that maybe something could get done. But then shortly after, Schefter, Dan Rossini, Rappaport, Pelissero, they all kind of said, the pause button's been hit. There's no update. Things aren't going to get done, which led into free agency and San Francisco having this mass exodus. And things have kind of taken, just a kind of a quiet turn. Like nothing's happening. Nothing has been happening. There is no update, like you said, which really should be expected. The Niners do things in phases, and getting their own guys done has never been phase 1, 2, or really 3. It's the re-signing process of their own guys that are going to be free agents. That's phase 1. Phase 2 is signing free agents. Phase 3 is the draft process, and re-signing guys that are under contract already is phase 4. So we're not even at phase 3 just yet. That happens next Thursday, but phase 4 is coming hopefully very soon, but not now.
What is it with them though? I mean, I was talking to, I went to physical therapy today for my knee. I'm talking to one of the physical therapists. He's a Broncos fan. And I told him, I says, for the love of God, like the Niners are so weird with how they do things. I don't know if this is a organizational structure or just because John and Lynch and Parag and all that, like they take so long for contracts to get done and they let it always seem like, I think I forgot who might've posted it, but I said, they put an update and I said, so what you're really saying is it's going to get done somewhere in August. And like, I say that and I'm being tongue in cheek, but I'm really being realistic because it seems like that's kind of how they do things. And I feel like with the way things have gone recently, especially last year, you would think that they may have wanted to change strategy with everything. I mean, they've done a lot of house cleaning with coaching and moving on from like older, more banged up players. But this whole thing with, Buffalo gets a deal done with Josh Allen and nobody talks about it. It just happens, right? And with the 49ers, it's like this prolonged, dragged out process. It's kind of Is it? I don't know. Do they do it for news sake? Is there some sort of deal they have with the local media? Like, why take so long? You have any inclination what it is, or is it just the Niners being the Niners?
Well, you would have thought last year, kind of like you said, that had, after the Brandon Aiyuk situation played itself out in San Francisco, in their own words, lost that deal, they would have changed something. However, all the indication and reporting out of San Francisco, Santa Clara has been they're going to penny pinch. They're going to be this hard nosed, we're not budging kind of negotiating. And when you hear that, you have to assume either hold in, hold out, or it's going to be a long, grueling process. San Francisco, I think the way they have previously viewed waiting so long is that they can hopefully wait these guys out, have those guys drive their prices down, and quote unquote win whatever deal they're trying to sign. And sometimes it works. Fred Warner, George Kittle. I think overwhelmingly those are two deals they would kind of applaud themselves for. Whereas recently, I think a lot of players, Nick Bosa, Brandon Aiyuk, Christian McCaffrey, those guys have kind of Trent Williams, exactly, have been like, look, we're good. We know we're good. The market's in our favor. Let's make San Francisco blink first. And, Brock doesn't really have the same leverage as those previous four players that got signed. But I think San Francisco is going to fight tooth and nail, save money, at least try to, in Brock Purdy's contract. I wonder if it's a lot about, yeah, it's guaranteed money, but do you think maybe the years could be a sticking point? Like Brock,
I've seen that the deal is the Niners want 3, his sides want 5. They're closer to 50. His side's closer to 55. Again, it's a negotiation, and that's what it sounds like, negotiation tactics. I told you this on the last Lime stream I had with you, that I had this feeling when they asked Jed York, and he made his comments about getting the Brock Purdy deal done and that, but he made that little side comment, and I told you internally the Niners think a certain way about Brock. As much as they love him and we love him, they kind of look at him the way a lot of fans who maybe aren't so hooray Brock, when he had to throw in the zinger about, well, he has all these great players around him and he has Kyle as coach.
Right.
That mindset is there. And I think that permeates through the owner, Jed, or excuse me, the coach. And I think that in John Lynch, I think they all share that same kind of view of Brock Purdy. So in a sense, like, I'm not really surprised if I look at it like that and I kind of put that cap on and I look at it through those lenses. They have a certain viewpoint on him. They love him to death, but he's not of that caliber that, everybody talks about and likes to shove in Niners faces all the time. Like, oh, he's not Josh Allen. He's not, Mahomes. He's not, oh my God, his name's Lamar Jackson. So that when I heard that from Jed, when they were talking about it, I think everyone was everyone looked tanned up and a little tipsy when they were asking those questions. So that's kind of how I think they look at him. And maybe that's why they are so far apart, but that's just me. That's my opinion.
I think the Niners are in a very unique situation compared to other teams. Like, look at who's picking in the top 5 this year, right? You have the Titans. They need a quarterback to make their head coach. Hopefully pair those guys together. The Browns have a head coach that can win something, but not know exactly what that may be. They took a big swing. The quarterback failed. The Giants, I think, have a pretty good head coach, but no quarterback and haven't had one after they signed Daniel Jones to a big deal. So the Niners are in a place where they're in amongst those 3 or 4 or 5 teams, probably the Ravens, the Steelers, the Chiefs, and then the Niners are in there, and maybe somebody else I'm forgetting, but like they are teams that can win really no matter who the quarterback is. Jimmy G, Brock Purdy. I don't want to add Mac Jones into that conversation, but you can at least sell yourself and the team on, well, we have Kyle. It doesn't matter who's calling plays. And I don't think that's entirely true. Obviously, you've seen the variables and the variations throughout the years with Kyle and Nick Mullins and CJ Beathard and all those guys playing quarterback. But I do think that, oddly enough, the Niners want to sign Brock Purdy. They want to get a deal done, but they kind of have this unspoken, I guess you can say, leverage or unspoken angle of like, well, we are amongst the 3 or 4 teams that can actually win with a mediocre QB And because we have Kyle calling plays, he's a great play caller. Now, is that entirely true? Obviously, it hasn't got done twice, but we can all sit back and say, well, Jimmy G was a good enough quarterback, but wasn't a great quarterback by any means. And Kyle could probably win something with Kirk Cousins 5 years ago. Kyle could probably win something, or at least go to the playoffs with Mac Jones. And I think that although you'd obviously want to get Brock Purdy done, I think there is, at least inside San Francisco's organization, of like, well, as long as we have Kyle, who cares who the quarterback is? And I don't know how much of that is valid. Obviously, Purdy has played so good for 2 out of the 3 years he's been here. And you've seen this offense take new heights. But I do wonder if a little bit of that simply is, well, maybe a blind trust in Kyle, or like, Kyle's great, we want to win something, but as long as we have Kyle, it certainly drives Brock Purdy's price tag down from a kind of an introspective point of view.
Yeah, I feel like if there's any other coaching staff and a different set of skill players, and this was Brock Purdy, I think, and Brock Purdy was, one of those other guys, I think this deal would get done already. But I think,
yeah,
like you said, the Niners kind of have their unspoken viewpoint on Brock. And I've been a big proponent of his, but I've kind of also, I think a lot of people have always said that I was a little bit like blinded by everything. Like, oh, you're a Brock lover. No, I'm not a Brock lover, but I had a lot of faith in him last year. It didn't necessarily shake my faith in him, but it made me realize that, things have to be pretty perfect for this 49er team to kind of run the way that they've ran in previous seasons. And he didn't have some of those things around him last year, and it definitely showed. But then I look at it, and the whole team sucked. They were just a crap sandwich all the way around. So
yeah,
when I look at it like that, I kind of take a little bit of the onus off of him. Then there's the people out there that we know that are big, giant, Trey Lance got screwed. He never had a chance. So no matter, even when we were doing good with Brock and beating the Eagles by a gazillion points in 2023 and going to the Super Bowl, people were still crapping on him. So there's that kind of a section of fans that are going to say whatever regardless. It's funny we talk about this. Puka Nacua was interviewed, and he made a comment regarding the contract, saying if the Niners signed Purdy to this really over pretty much saying if they overcompensate and pay him too much, that he thinks, and this is coming from an active player on the freaking Rams, that he thinks the Niners Super Bowl window closes. What'd you make of that comment? That's like, wait, what?
Well, I thought it was funny because, it's no disrespect to Puka Nacua, but if he really thinks that the Niners window to win a Super Bowl closes because Brock Purdy's making $50 million per year compared to $45 million per year, then an NFL player has no idea how contracts work in the NFL. Like, $5 million is practically nothing unless it's guaranteed money. Now, that's different. But they weren't talking about that. They were strictly talking about the APY, the average per year. If Brock's making 55 and 50, the window's closed, but 45 is a good deal. And it's like, really? Like $5 million? Now, it's different when you're talking about like, oh, give that guy a $5 million contract compared to a $10 million contract. But when you're talking about, 4 or 5 year deals, 3-year deals, guaranteed money, large term, long-term deals, like you can manipulate that in any single way. Yep. The Saints have done it for the last 10 years. And it has worked at times earlier in Drew Brees' tenure there, and hadn't worked later as they wanted to maximize that. And you've seen teams like Philadelphia, you've seen teams like Kansas City, San Francisco push money down the road and try to get things done. And, although there has been this kind of financial cleansing of the roster this offseason, San Francisco is not bickering over $5 million with Brock Purdy per year. They're going to bicker over the guaranteed money.
Yep.
And so it just kind of made me laugh of like, Puka, like you're going to want to get paid one day. And the Rams are going to probably pay you a good chunk of change. And you're going to sit there and realize that, oh, my $25 million per year really doesn't change much when it comes to guaranteed money when I'm getting the exact same bag I would have got anyway. So it made me laugh. And also, like, just keep Brock Purdy's name out of your mouth. like, what are you doing, brother? Like, Matthew Stafford's 45 years old and can barely stay healthy for a whole season. So
right.
Who are you going to play, Jimmy Garoppolo and Stetson Bennett? So there was some like, what are we doing here, man? Albeit he was asked about it, so I digress.
Yeah, I mean, he's a really good player though too. So
he's great. Love Puka.
I mean, I wish the Niners. Niners. I think somebody said the Niners had a chance to draft Puka Nacua in the
He's a
draft.
fifth round pick, right?
Yeah,
A lot of teams did.
a lot of teams did. But the only other bit of news really is the what we're expecting to hear, or what you expect to hear from the John Lynch presser coming up. I think it's on the 22nd.
It's Tuesday.
Yeah, like what are we going to hear, Sterling? We're going to hear nothing. It's all coach speak, GM speak. He's going to say a whole lot of nothing, like he always does, because he's really good at that. Because that's why John Lynch is who he is. He's kind of the face of the franchise, the suit, the corporate front that they put on. I don't expect to hear. He's going to get asked about Brock Purdy. We already know what the answer to that's going to be. He's going to be asked about Brandon Aiyuk. We already know what that answer is going to be. And then they're going to ask him about the roster and what he thinks about the draft. And we already know that answer is going to be. So really, it's just like, whatever.
It'll be interesting to see if Kyle Shanahan also attends. I think either last year or 2 years ago, they didn't really kind of get into the whole quarterback thing. Like they didn't even announce Kyle was going to be there. He just showed up, and it was like, something big must have happened. But sometimes Kyle wants to show face and just kind of be there and kind of protect, what John may say or may not say. I do wonder, though, this is the first time they're going to be face to face with the media since this mass exodus of players, since they gutted the roster, since they had kind of hired Robert Saleh. Hadn't been official, I think, at the combine yet, or if it was kind of passed over. So I'm really hoping that the media, and I will not be there, unfortunately, the media will question John. Like, what's the strategy here? Is this like an overhaul on defense? Is this more of like we just trust, Robert Saleh, like to kind of take over our defensive line and reshape it? Like, they're going to ask about Aiyuk, I'm sure, but like, I think you have to ask, like, what is the thought process in cutting all these players and walking into an NFL draft with 11 overall, with 11 picks, and really like needing to only draft defensive line? Like, it's rather confusing, to kind of sit there and be like, what's the plan, when we can all theorize what it may be, but they're going to have to draft 3 to 4 defensive linemen with 11 of their picks. So, it's going to be interesting to see what they do.
Their plan to me is they have to rebolster the roster with a bunch of rookies, and all those rookies are going to play next year. They've left themselves no other option. We're okay with them, that they're gutting the roster and try to get ahead of this cap situation in the next couple of years, because it's going to jump up for them and they're going to have a little bit more money in the next 2 years. At least that's what the reports say. I asked Jason Hurley, who's a cap specialist, and he told me, they'll have a little bit of money in the next couple of years. So they're doing it for a reason, but at the same time, you put yourself in this position. I mean, they didn't make any moves in free agency. They made moves in free agency, but a lot of them are like special teams guys that we've never heard of.
Oh, you don't love Luke Farrell as a splash signing?
Luke Farrell was our biggest signing.
Luke Farrell, baby. Kyle Juszczyk's back.
Kyle Juszczyk came back, and John's gonna try to sell us on all that stuff. But when it comes down to it, this is probably the most important draft that they've had in this franchise since Sean and Kyle have been here. And there's really nothing. There's no other way to look at it. They have to hit on at least 6 players, at least. They need an edge. They need a couple D tackles. They need a linebacker. They need a possible offensive lineman. They need to make some moves.
So
make them run.
I think we can admit that if Christian McCaffrey's healthy, Grendo's healthy, Purdy's healthy, the offensive line is similar to what it was last year. I think Aaron Banks is kind of an addition by subtraction. Put in Ben Barch, put in the draft pick, whoever it may be at left guard. Am I wrong to believe that although you may lose some firepower on defense, although you may lose some offensive firepower, albeit a lot of the guys are still there, minus Deebo Samuel, who was bad last year anyways, just strengthening alone your special teams raises the floor of this roster and can kind of make up for some of the big disasters they had last year. Like, I think of the big losses they had, the Rams one obviously was pretty big. The Cardinals won. Like, the Niners played in 7 one-score games last year. And yes, a lot of that was due to having injuries and whatnot, but it's like they were 4 to 5 different bounces away to them being a 10+ win team.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying they deserve that. They didn't. I'm not saying they should have been. They did. They were not for a reason. But am I wrong to kind of, I don't want to say buy in, but like just look at it and say, well, Richie Grant, Jason Pinnock, the linebacker they signed, I'm forgetting his name, Luke Farrell, like those kind of fringe roster signings that raise your special team group a little higher, that's going to help you win 1 to 2 more games this year, which if that's the case, you're an 8-win team, boom, you're 8-9, you're right in the wild card hunt. And if you nail some of these draft picks, then you're in the conversation for a 9-10-win team again. So like, I know it's doom and gloom sometimes, and we don't want to, speak highly of what they're doing because it seems so unfocused. But I don't know, like I do have a little bit of hope that they're going to be fine. But again, that hinges on, hitting on 4 or 5 of these picks that can be, stars for you in year one.
John Lynch also did make a comment about the Niners will be a top 5 spending team by the time the season starts. So maybe they have their eyes on some players.
Well, that's Kittle and Purdy, right? Like that's the Kittle and Purdy deal they're going to do.
Well, maybe maybe they're not going to sign anybody else, but that's what he said. Damn it, you just like popped the bubble. I was like, oh, maybe they will make some moves after. Damn it.
They're going to trade for TJ Watt.
Yeah. Jeez. Some of these, I know people do stuff for clicks, man. I know that's part of the racket that we all run on social media. But Jesus, like they're not trading for TJ Watt, another injury-prone guy who can't stay on the field. Really good when he's on the field, but he's always hurt. So
hey, that is ESPN's Chris Canty. So you better watch out, man. He's a big timer.
Big timer, like along with all the other idiots that they have there.
Good player though. Good player.
Who know? And I got to say this: they know about as much about the draft as I do this year. And I want to segue into that because you did one of your latest mock drafts. I'm going to put it up on the screen, and we're just going to kind of make our way through the picks. And I'm going to let you explain.
Roast me all you want, Aaron. Roast me.
Oh no, I have no leverage to roast anybody this year. Maybe after the draft, after I read up and watch stuff over and over and over again, then maybe I'll have some opinions. But right now, I'm at your mercy. I told you in the text chat, I said I'm here to learn, just like everybody else. So let me bring that up on screen. Show screen.
And let me just say, this has been a really tough draft process, not from a scouting perspective, but it's like I always go into these of like, okay, I cover the 49ers for my job and for the station and for my YouTube channel and the podcast. Like I'm looking for guys I think the Niners will draft, can use, fit their scheme. This one has been just really perplexing because I have no idea what they're going to do at 11. I don't know what they're thinking this year. And it's very, it's kind of had my mind a little rattled throughout the process, trying to make sense of what the heck San Francisco is doing this year. Do they trade up? Do they trade back? Like, what's the deal with what they're doing? But it's been rather confusing. A lot of fans want certain things that I don't think San Francisco is going to grab this year, but I tried to make this draft the most realistic what the Niners would do in this year's draft starting next Thursday. What is that, 6 days away? So I tried to do with what they would do in this year's draft.
Do you guys usually zoom in on these? Zoom in on the screen?
Yeah, try to, yeah. Make it big for the folks at home.
How do I do that? Do I do that on
I think if you well.
Doesn't seem to want to work.
Maybe I can get it on my end.
All right. Sorry, guys.
Technical difficulties, folks. No, it's all good. You're good.
I don't usually do the screen sharing part. You want me to remove it and then you can do it, or?
Let's see. Let's see what we got. Let's see if I can do it. Actually, hold on. Is there an enhance on your thing? Let's see what this is. Okay, I have this here. Do you see the screen share? There we go. There we go. Perfect. Boom. Is that big enough? Do you want to zoom in on it, or should I zoom in on it? Okay.
Can you zoom in on it? Let me see if maybe you can do it on your side.
I don't see it on my end. I don't think so. That's all right though.
If you have really good eyes, and this is the stream for you.
Hold on. I have an idea. Let's do this. Let's do this here for a second.
Hello, everybody.
How's it going? Here we go. Let's try this here. Okay, try that now. Okay, and if I can get rid of this, zoom in on this. We can always scroll down on it too.
How are you able to do that? Because I tried to do it on mine and it just kept going like this.
I just zoomed in on the actual like X or Twitter post we were doing it on. Hopefully that's
press?
Good.
What do you press on your?
Oh, I just zoomed in with the mouse.
How do you zoom in with the mouse?
It's 2 fingers, and you just I don't know how to describe it.
Oh, kind of like you open the mouse pad. You have a touchscreen.
I do have a touchscreen, but I just did it on the mouse pad in front of me. Yeah.
I don't know how to do that. Okay. Sorry, guys. All right. So
he knows as much about computers as he does about the draft, folks. We're going to be good.
We're being completely honest here. We're all about truth and honesty. So with the number 11 pick, and I've seen him mocked a lot later in some of the previous mock drafts I've seen.
Yeah.
You have Mikel Williams out of Georgia, edge, picked at number 11. Any thinking behind his jump up? I mean, at least maybe in my eyes, from what I did early on, he was a little bit farther down. I would say closer to the second round. But I have seen him also on some other people's drafts of him a little higher. What's the story on Mikel Williams?
Yeah, so first going into this, if I was the 49ers, like, and I was John Lynch and I was picking, I would not take Michael Williams at all. I would rather have Walter Nolan, Derek Harmon, Mike Green. I know he has some red flags, personal issues that may or may not be a problem for them. I don't think that Michael Williams has the high-end potential to be this amazing edge rusher. He doesn't have the bend you want to be an explosive pass rusher. He's shown a willingness to learn, but if you listen to what Matt Barrows said and Tim Kawakami said, and Barrows was like, yeah, they're probably going to go Michael Williams or Shamar Stewart. And when I first heard that, I was like, no, like that sounds like a bad idea. I don't want either one of those guys at 11. In fact, Shamar Stewart made my do not draft at 11 episode I did. So I get it. He's a scheme fit, but I just don't like taking tradesy players that don't produce in college. There's many reasons as to why people don't produce in college. And some of those differ from prospect to prospect, but in Michael Williams' case, he's 6'5", 265 pounds, had a 70.6 pass rush grade at Georgia, an 82.9 run defense grade. He had 6 sacks and 11.6 pass rush win rate. You can maybe say he was kind of hindered by an ankle injury last year, and I wouldn't tell you you're wrong. But he's super lengthy, 34 and 3/8 inch arms. He'll fill run gaps. He can reach ball carriers, reach those mobile quarterbacks, kind of get out of the pocket. Violent player. I think he's one of the best edge setting run defenders in this year's class. San Francisco needs that desperately. The only question is, despite the great anchor and the strength and the length, can he become a top tier pass rusher opposite Nick Bosa? And again, I would not make this move, but I think they may. Like, I am down to 2 prospects at 11. It's Walter Nolan and Michael Williams. And I think both those guys are going to be in contention for that pick when it's all said and done. I just wonder, because Michael Williams, the way Georgia played him, he plays outside, but he plays like an interior defensive lineman. So there is the inside-outside versatility that Saleh likes, Kocurek likes from his edge rushers. And there has been a desire to grow, to learn. So he's a very coachable player at the edge group. And I think if you get that base run defense down, I think sometimes coaches are a little egotistical and go, oh, I can change him. I can fix him. He's that girl kind of dates the bad boy of like, Mom, I can fix him. He's not that bad. And it's like, well, I mean, there's some hope. There's glimmers there of like, hey, he's a great player. But sometimes a run defending edge rusher usually is your third guy, your fourth guy, not your first guy. And I think the Niners viewed themselves, well, we got Robert Saleh back. We got Kosaric. We can change him. We can fix him. So I think they may do that at 11. But I would not do that whatsoever. I would take Nolan, Mike Green, and you can maybe pitch me on Derek Harmon, who I do like a lot at 11 as well.
Fluffy Ninja in the comments said, should the Niners move up for Mason Graham?
So right now, if you had to ask me, the top 4 picks will be Cam Ward, Tennessee, Travis Hunter, Cleveland Browns, Mason Graham goes 3 to the Giants, and Abdul Carter goes 4 to the Patriots. So you're going to have to get to 3 or 4, I think, at least, to get Mason Graham. I don't think San Francisco wants to make a trade up for a prospect. I don't think many of those players or teams inside the top 4 want to trade back. The Jaguars are interesting, though. I think once or if Mason Graham and Abdul Carter somehow fall to 5, that's where things get interesting because some teams will start calling up. And I would not be shocked to hear San Francisco make a call. However, can San Francisco really afford to trade from 11 to 6, 11 to 5? Those teams are going to ask for this year's first, next year's first, and a second. And San Francisco has to be able to hit on these picks to revitalize the roster. So I don't think, even if they wanted to, they have enough capital to make a trade up because they're going to have to give up next year's first rounder as well.
I mean, I've heard the report. No, I hear it. I heard, there's people reporting stuff that the Niners want to trade up into the top 6. So they've been calling teams. Do they have interest? Just don't see it with the amount of needs that they need to be filled in this draft. I don't see them.
It would be different if like the Saints at 9, like they don't want a quarterback at 9 if Mason Graham falls or somebody San Francisco likes is there. And San Francisco wants to make it a point to get ahead of the Bears at 10. I can see that happening, or even the Panthers, who want to recoup some of their picks after they traded up for Bryce Young a couple years ago. But top 6 teams, top 5 teams, I think they're just staying put. They're staying put.
You go defensive lineman again at pick 43. This doesn't look like a move. You didn't do any trading back on this one either.
I made some trades later in the draft.
Later
on day 2 to kind of round out the roster. But I made it the point to say, look, I don't think many teams want to trade. Like most teams don't want to trade up in the first round unless one of those blue chippers fall, which feels like it's not going to happen. And then on day 2, a lot of teams want to hoard their picks knowing that this year's draft, the sweet spot is day 2. This draft is really hard to separate because if you go to the defensive tackle room, it's Mason Graham, it's Walter Nolan, who are the 2, I think, top 2 guys who are probably the more trade-seer players. Then it's Kenneth Grant, Derek Harmon, guys who are probably going to be overall 10-year vets and good players. And then it's a bunch of, scheme fits, guys you like, but don't fit what you want to do, and more of like specialist kind of players, pass rushers, run stuffers. The same thing goes for edge, where it's like, you love Abdul Carter. You love Mike Green minus the red flags. But then it's like, after that, it's a bunch of like, maybe not high-end prospects, but, higher floor players. Then it's like a lot of schematic fit issues like James Pierce Jr., I don't think fits San Francisco's scheme at all. I think he's a 3-4 outside linebacker. And I don't think he fits what they want to do defensively. So maybe I'm wrong there, and that's cool. I don't mind being wrong if they're a great player. But I think Michael Williams fits what they want to do defensively more than James Pierce Jr. does. And I think that at pick 43, if you go run stuffer edge rusher, you have to find a bigger body space eater on the interior. This team has to eat space to free up guys like Nick Bosa and hopefully free up Mike Williams on the opposite side too.
Darius Alexander, would you consider him more of an interior pass rusher or a run stuffer?
Darius Alexander, to me, is one of the more well-rounded players. I think there's a chance he gets taken a little earlier on day 2, probably in the 30s, but early 40s, I think, is a good spot for him. I know the mock draft has him ranked 53rd. However, if you don't get Nolan, if they don't like Nolan enough, if they don't get Derek Harmon, he wasn't there at the time, who I'd love to get on this team on the interior. I'm not a big TJ Sanders guy. I think you have to make your picks count this year. You can't take a guy on day 2 who you're like, well, he's a great pass rusher, but then you're like, he's off the field on second and first down. You can't do that. Like, this team needs starters that can play 2 to 3 downs for you. And I don't think that guys like TJ Sanders can do so, albeit I think Saleh loves him out of South Carolina. But I think Darius Alexander is one of the more underrated players. I think Brian Baldinger talked about him this past week. He's 6'3", 305 pounds, a sixth-year senior, so he's more proven, 25 years old as a rookie, 34-inch arms. So you're getting a 34 and 3/8-inch arm to Michael Williams as an edge rusher, and you're getting a 34-inch arm, 305-pound interior guy to pair with him. I dare you to run against this team. Like, you're not going nowhere. Saquon Barkley, other guys that are top backs in football, you're going to have a hard time getting in between the tackles and freeing up space to maneuver. But he also had a 77.8 pass rushing grade last year, 37 pressures, 4 sacks, similar to Michael Williams, 11.8 pass rush win rate, 23 run stops, and also, for your shorter quarterbacks, 6 batted balls the last 2 seasons.
Something I never see. The Niners, I mean, teams do it to us all the time, and because Brock's smaller. But, man, I don't think that can you remember a time in the past where the Niners have had defensive linemen that have knocked down passes? It's been quite a bit of time. I don't even remember anybody in the past, really.
The last one I can think of, didn't Javon Kinlaw knock one down his rookie season, then pick it off to run for a touchdown against the Rams?
Yes.
That's the last one I can think of.
And he's freaking doo-doo butter. I mean, he was a bad player too. So that's not saying much. So we jump up to pick 75.
Yeah.
It says interior offensive lineman, so I'm assuming he can kind of move around guard, center. Charles Grant from William and Mary. I'm looking at the grades on the screen. This is a B+ grade. It's weird because the Niners are so bereft of talent on defensive line. Anytime I see any mock drafts that have them picking nothing but defensive linemen, I question it. So, but they do need. I would love. I mean, he's not going to play his rookie year because Kyle doesn't like rookies. The thinking and the thought process behind Charles Grant at pick 75.
Yeah, I think before we get into Charles Grant, I just want to highlight this about Darius Alexander.
Okay.
In my notes, I have he's an annihilator of offensive linemen. I think that's, again, you can take my words for granted or whatnot, pitch of salt, whatever, but I think he is he's going to be a great player wherever he goes, whether it's San Francisco. I am begging Philadelphia to not get him, or the Rams to not get him. If anything, if he's going to go anywhere, please be the Chargers, not anyone in the NFC. But when it comes to Charles Grant, I've kind of bounced back and forth as to, do the San Francisco 49ers need to get a right tackle this year? Colton McKivitz has been okay. He's fine. I don't hate him. I don't love him. He's just kind of there, does some good things, does some bad things. He cannot absorb a bull rush to save his life, but he's good enough to be a right tackle in the NFL. Good run blocker, but he's gone after this year. He's going to be a free agent after this year. They could bring him back, but who knows? They could say, go get 10 mil elsewhere, give us a comp pick and call it a day. And I wouldn't be shocked. You can also have the conversation of, do the San Francisco 49ers need to protect themselves if Trent Williams gets hurt and or retires after this season? And that's where I've been, on the teeter-totter of like, no, they don't. They need defensive linemen. You can get an edge rusher here and you just beef it up and give Saleh whatever he wants. But then I'm like, well, that's great, but you also have to protect yourself. You lose Jalen Moore, and there's no promise somebody like Charles Grant will be there at tackle next year. This year's draft alone in itself doesn't really have bona fide tackles. You have Will Campbell.
So essentially, it'd be a reach if they were to try to make something work that in a weaker draft. So the interior does seem like the best fit then, if you're thinking it along those lines.
Well, and to be clear, I don't think Charles Grant is just a guard. He can play tackle. He's 6'4", 300 pounds with 35-inch arms. He meets the criteria to be a tackle.
Yeah.
And so I think he fits what they want to do. Last year, only 10 pressures allowed, 87.3 pass blocking grade, 89.9 run blocking grade, only 2 quarterback hits allowed all year long. The only question really is, at William and Mary, are you facing like top tier NFL talent? Probably not, but that's why to me in year one, you ask him, can you play left guard? Can you be a swing tackle on the emergency for us? You learn from Trent Williams for a year, and even if Trent comes back after the season, Charles Grant becomes your right tackle, and you have two bona fide studs kind of bookending your offensive line. He's a former wrestler, so he's an explosive athlete, gets off the ball quick. He has good balance. I think there's a real chance if you wanted to push it, right tackle, right guard, left tackle. I think he can kind of do it all minus center. And I think the Niners, again, it may be a reach to some at 75, but there really are not many bona fide tackles. You have Will Campbell, who probably will start at tackle, then go to guard because of the arm length he has, although I think he's a heck of a player. He'll probably go inside the top 7 or 9. Then you have guys like Armin Nembu, and Josh Simmons has the patellar injury. Is he healthy or not? You like Josh Connerly, but I would not be shocked to watch him go to the Houston Texans late in this draft, where the Dolphins at 13 or 14 this year. So you kind of get, there are some slim pickings on day 2, and you have to find the guys you like. And if you can get Darius Alexander at 43, you can get Charles Grant at 75. You're getting yourself a guy that can help you on the interior in year 1, and maybe in year 2 becomes a starter because he has all the talent to be a wide zone phenom for you if everything clicks for him on the offensive line.
Nice. That was really long arms though when you saw 35. That's 35-inch arms for an interior and offensive lineman. But that's
like why he's probably going to be a tackle.
That's what I'm saying. That's tackle length arms right there. Because
Exactly.
I know who would the Niners draft? A lot of people. I'm trying to think of the player that they had. A lot of people wanted to see him play tackle. Someone they drafted, but he had really short arms, and I just can't think for the life of who he was, either last year or the year before. But like, it just like people call things out during training camp and OTAs about players. They try to place players, in different positions, right. And one of the positions was tackle. But the overarching conversation was the lack of arm length, which it looks like Charles Grant does not have that issue. So that's a good thing.
The Niners are so particular about their tackles and their offensive linemen. And there's a reason why they don't pick guys in the first, second round usually. Like McGlinchey's kind of the outlier. Banks has been kind of the outlier. They traded for Trent Williams for a 3rd-round pick, and it kind of shows you, what they're willing to do. On the offensive line, they plugged and played John Feliciano, Jake Brendel, and Daniel Brunskill, and guys like that, Mike Person, guys who have been these kind of journeyman veterans that they think they can get the most out of and say, okay, not a great pass blocker, but if you're on the interior, you're a little more protected. So they're really particular about their guys. And I think in a draft like this, you can maybe have the conversation at 43 about Jonah Sabanea from Arizona. Probably going to be a tackle guard at the NFL level. He's an awesome player too, fits the scheme, but he's already gone at this point in time. But I love Charles Grant. I think he'll go in the 60s, 70 range. And I think if tackles go early, like if you see Josh Simmons go early, gear up because there's going to be a run somewhere. And if you don't get one and you miss out, you can be in trouble. This team needs a swing tackle in the worst way.
They do.
Jalen Moore's gone. Austin Pleasance ain't the guy. Like, he ain't the guy. So I love Charles Grant so much. I hope they get him, and I think he'd be great in San Francisco.
Nice. We go to pick 100. Chris Paul Jr., not the basketball player, people. Yeah. At linebacker. Definitely a move I would like to see, considering the loss of Dre Greenlaw. Chris Paul Jr. What kind of guy we looking at Chris Paul Jr., the type of linebacker? Because you look at Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw, and they're kind of that downhill, undersized type of linebacker. So again, I'm here to learn. I would love to hear about Chris Paul Jr.
Yeah, I've been rather kind of perplexed as to what the Niners think of their linebackers because I really like D Winters. He just isn't great against the run, but he's one of the best graded coverage players in football last year. Um, and I think that there is potential for D Winters to become a starter next to Fred Warner if he already isn't at this point in time. But the way they went about like trying to get back Dre Greenlaw, I don't know if that was an indication of disbelief in D Winters or it was simply
Right.
we just love Dre Greenlaw so much. And I've been trying to figure that out in my head. That said, this linebacker class, to put it frankly, sucks. If you wait until day 3, you're not getting a good one. I don't know if San Francisco really needs to get one. Again, I like D Winters a lot. I do have some semblance of belief in Tatum Bethune. Maybe you can go sign a veteran, not named Devondre Campbell this offseason before training camp, and hopefully you can get Michael Kendricks maybe or Eric Kendricks, whatever his name is, who's burned you last year. I think he's a serviceable player for 1 year, a Band-Aid, if you will. But I think they like Chris Paul a lot. I think, to be honest with you, I mainly picked him for his nickname, which is Pooh. His name is Pooh Paul. And so I would love if who he had 6 sacks last year as a blitzing linebacker. I want to hear Troy Aikman, Joe Buck say, "Oh my God, he pooed on the quarterback." And it's like, this is awesome. Like we're having fun in the booth again on ESPN Monday Night Football. But he's 6'1", 222 pounds. Out of Mississippi, Ole Miss, partnered with Walter Nolan and many guys out there, Jared Ivey as well. 85 tackles, 54 defensive stops last year, which I don't know what that is. That is plays for negative yards or 0 yards. So he's at the line of scrimmage, making plays, hit 24 pressures, 6 sacks, 4 pass defenses, 1 pick, and 1 forced fumble. One and probably the biggest drawback to Chris Pooh Paul, if you will, he doesn't really have the length. You want 29 and 7/8 inch arms, so a little shorter, probably can't, clog those passing lanes very well. There's guys like, Jeffrey Bassa, Sean Dolak, those guys can, but Chris Paul, again, it's a nitpick, but it's there. You sometimes a fingertip can change the entirety of a game. We've seen it plenty of times at the NFL level, but against the run, the anchor really isn't great. You wish it was a little stronger, but like you said, the Niners love guys that can come downhill. And in my notes, I have Chris Pooh Paul comes downhill with intention. He wants to slap somebody around with the poo. He wants to get him dirty, get him muddy, and shove them right into the ground. He wants to put those dudes in the toilet and give it a flush. He is ready to go. Give him a swirly. He can flip those hips in coverage.
You're getting tackled by a guy whose nickname's Pooh. Pooh takes him down. I mean, hey man, that just sounds perfect.
It's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be awesome. Again, he has natural leverage because of his size. He's a smaller guy, so if you want to blitz him, he can get in there and wreak some havoc on the offensive line. He knows how to fill gaps against the run. Only a 7.6% missed tackle rate. One of the most underrated areas this team needs to improve is the missed tackle percentage. Too many missed tackles. How do you stop the run? Make tackles. This team last year could not tackle to save their life. Chris Paul, despite his arm length being not very long, under 30 inches, he knows how to tackle ball carriers, quarterbacks, and receivers. There are times he'll miss tackles, but that's more of a diagnostic issue compared to a skill issue. And I think he's really good in coverage. He has the instincts. And a well-known pro comp for him, I want to let you guess. I'll give you a hint here. Former Niner linebacker, played in 2019, 2020, actually got traded, I think, in 2020. But former Niner linebacker was on that 2019 Super Bowl roster that didn't get it done.
Aziz Al-Shaair?
No.
No?
Quan Alexander.
And I was kind of looking for more of a Zach Thomas from the Dolphins from back in the day, considering he's undersized with small arms. Maybe even a Chris Borland. No?
Just kind of a sawed-off shotgun with the neck brace. Like, who am I killing
Yeah.
next?
Dude,
Like
Zach
Stone Cold
Taylor,
Steve Austin from
yes.
with Longest Yard. Like, whoa.
Yes. Dropping stunners on, I mean, poo with the stunner, man. Like, that would be
Yeah.
amazing.
If the words "poo with a stunner" came out of a broadcaster's mouth, it would be the best day of my life. That would be awesome. I think he's a great player. I think he has the instincts to play zone or man coverage. I think that you can coach up some of the problems they have. Again, just overrunning plays at times. But Drake Greenlaw did that too.
Yep.
I just want to say this: whoever they draft should never be compared to Dre Greenlaw, who is one of the best linebackers in Niner history. He just
Yes.
is.
Yeah.
And so I'm really worried people are going to do that. Well, he's not Dre Greenlaw. Well, you shouldn't ask the guys to be, but I think Chris Paul, they like him. They had him in for a visit. And I think he could be someone they target at pick 100.
Nice. We run up. We jump up to pick 118 with running back DJ Giddens from Kansas State.
Yes.
It's going to happen, folks. They're going to draft the linebacker at some point in this draft. That's just how it goes. What's the 411 on DJ Giddens? What kind of back are we looking at?
Yeah, I do want to make it clear that I did trade back here from pick 113 to 118, and I also got pick 218. So only moved back a few picks. I don't think San Francisco would want to do that. I just thought the value was better moving back, giving you more ammo late in the draft on day 3 to kind of round out your roster, get guys you like late, maybe some more project players you may like. But that's one of 3 trades I made. But a lot of those trades were, again, in the 100s, late day 2, round 3, round 4 things. But talking about DJ Giddens, when I tell you last year, I fell in love with Isaac Guerendo early. And I was like, this is my guy. He's a Niner guy. Kyle loves him. You can just tell. Wide zone. There's some injury stuff there. May fall in the draft. And he did. Kyle traded up for him actually last year. And I was not shocked at all. This year, the Niners traded Jordan Mason away. They got to find a player that is arguably better than Isaac Guerendo day 1. They have to find a bona fide number 2 running back because they don't have that. I like Guerendo. He gives you a lot of high potential. There's speed. There's 4.3 speed. There's receiving ability. There's health problems, though. And McCaffrey also has health problems. You have to find yourself somebody that, although you love both those players, CMC and Guerendo, you got to find a more, I don't want to say proven, but someone that can be reliable for you in between the tackles. And I have focused my sights on Kansas State's DJ Giddens, 6'1", 210 pounds, so a pretty good size for a running back.
Good size running back, yeah.
This past year at Kansas State, over 1,300 yards on the ground, 862 after contact. He forced 54 missed tackles last year, 7 rushing touchdowns, had 37 runs of 10-plus yards. There's one cut ability. There's speed there. He has the frame to hold up in pass protection, and he does thankfully have a feel for pressure, where it's coming from, where it's going at, where's the blitzer at. He'll pick it up. He can use some help on the anchor, but there's a willingness to do that there, which some guys just don't have in this year's draft class. He's got great vision out of the backfield. He's a patient runner. One of the biggest knocks on Guerendo last year was you have the speed. You have the ability to cut. The vision was lacking. And the more he played, the more he got comfortable, ready to go. I think DJ Giddens,
a lot of 1 yard and falling down kind of runs.
Right. Yeah. Not finding the hole, getting stuffed on first down, kind of putting the offense behind the chains and like, okay, now it's 2nd and 9, 2nd and 10. What do we do? DJ Giddens is a guy that falls forward on each play. He wants to get the extra yard for you. He'll find the small hole. He'll fit through it. Again, there is some play strength questions, maybe some effort issues, but overall, I think as a running back, you'll love him. And one of the great things about this is that he's not a receiver. He had 5 drops on 32 targets last year. He just doesn't have good hands as a receiver. However, that's where Isaac Guerendo comes into play. Receiver background, 4.3 speed, rotate these suckers, get these guys all in the backfield, and you can have yourself a three-headed monster, if you will, with CMC, who I think should take on a more Deebo Samuel-like role this year as a slot receiver on screens and stuff. Get Giddens in your backfield, and you get a wide zone productive back behind CMC, and Guerendo uses that 4-3 speed that you love to have these explosive plays on top of it.
Yeah, get Christian McCaffrey out of the backfield this season. Let other guys run the ball. He's a bona fide receiver as a running back. Dude is that good. Yeah. We got to figure out. We know well, Sterling, that Kyle Shanahan doesn't believe in rotation of backs. He just runs people into the ground until they get injured.
Right.
They have to change that mindset. They have to, because like it just doesn't work, man. You beat people down, and then you have what happened last year, where a guy essentially both of his Achilles were like, "Yeah, we're tapping out for a season. See ya. We'll come back next year, maybe." He sounds like a 49er running back to me, minus the hands. You know, that zone stretch zone run that they'd like to run, that old Denver Broncos running game from the 80s with, Terrell Davis and all those other running backs. So yeah, he does. He sounds just like, but the hands is a big thing though. That is huge.
Right.
But if they use them for what they're using them for, like you said, if they just strictly run the ball with them, then yeah, I could see him. And he almost sounds like a Niner player that should already be on the roster, man. I'm kind of sold on him.
There's two other running backs I want to kind of let you know about, because again, wide zone's a pretty common scheme now. Vikings, Rams, Niner, they all use it. The Browns use it too. Watch out for Brashard Smith from SMU. More of a receiver. He played receiver at Miami, but fully converted the running back this past year at SMU. Not a 3-down back, not going to be a guy you have in there in first, second, and third down, but a guy you like as a receiver. May make Guerendo somewhat redundant unless you believe Guerendo can be the number 2 back this year. But he's very explosive. He has that short area one back or one cut back explosive ability. Over 1,300 yards, 14 touchdowns, 55 force space tackles, and 36 explosive runs as a senior this past year. And I think a sleeper that I would be a little upset if he went to San Francisco on day 2 or early on day 3 is Ollie Gordon III from Oklahoma State. 6'1", 220 pounds, a bigger back.
Wow.
His stock completely tanked this year. He was atrocious. He looked injured. He looked stiff. There was no vision. There was no burst. And it was really confusing because in 2023, he looked like a, put the card in now, first round pick, early day 2, round 2 pick. And I don't know what happened. It just cratered. I don't know if it was an injury. I don't know if it was, just the offense didn't do what they needed to do. They kind of got out of the wide zone scheme. I think there is a chance Kyle may view him as a day 3 pick and a bigger back in those goal line situations. I think there is a way he can be a power back that can push the pile, give you short yardage. Again, I wouldn't love it at pick 118 or 100 or 125, but you get into the 150s, 160s in a loaded running back class. Just watch out for Ollie Gordon III, or second, from Oklahoma.
Little Otis Anderson from back in the old days with the New York Giants. That's what he sounds like. Big, slow, heavy power back. I haven't seen a power back in the NFL in ages. A guy that just runs downhill that is massive, other than what's his face from the formerly of the Titans and now the Baltimore.
Oh, Derrick Henry.
Yeah, he is, but he's one of one. There's not much to say about that. We go back to defensive line at pick 125. A defensive lineman, I would assume tackle.
Yes.
Vernon Broughton. What is the story on Vernon Broughton?
Yeah, so I actually traded up here with the Chargers. Okay. I got pick 125 and acquired pick 199, and I gave them pick 138, pick 160, and pick 249. So did some maneuvering around, some kind of I move up, you move up in different rounds this year to kind of get back up for a defensive lineman. We already got Darius Alexander. We got Michael Williams. I wanted to make it a point to get a pass rushing defensive tackle.
Nice.
San Francisco seemingly has their eyes on Omar Norman Lott from Tennessee. I didn't take him here. I could have. I think he'll be an early day 2 pick. They like him a lot, but if you can't get him, go Vernon Broughton. Again, 35-inch arms, 6'5", 311 pounds, only 23 years old as a fifth-year senior, so there is some use still there. He's a good pass rusher. He gets off with the explosiveness. He has good quick feet, strong torso, strong upper body. He's a very technically sound and refined pass rusher out of Texas. He has the club move, the swim move. He has the rip, the bull rush. He does all these things you like, where when most guys come into the NFL, they have one move or they have no moves. This guy can do it 4 different ways, get to the quarterback, attack the offensive lineman. You do wish he was a little bit more bendy and kind of sink his hips a little more, get that leverage. Being 6'5", you will see times where the interior offensive linemen get under his pads, get him out of the play. But if he's your third down defensive lineman on 3rd and 8, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 6, go after the quarterback, I think there's a good possibility he can be a really good player for you at the NFL level. He's not going to be a great run defender, but you already got Darius Alexander. I think there is a possibility here where San Francisco, if they want to double dip, they can go Cameron Jackson from Florida later in this draft too, around the same range. He's more of a run defending, space heater defensive tackle for you. But I think that Vernon Broughton can be that third down, get to the quarterback at will defensive lineman for you.
Yeah, I like the fact that he's tall. Sounds a little bit like the old Buckner and Armstead. They had a little bit of a taller defensive tackle, not quite a 6'7", but I think interior pass rush is something that I feel like the 49ers have lacked in a long time. They always they've had the edge presence here and there, but one thing I've always noticed about the Niners is that they get a lot of push up the field around the edge, but interior they always seem to be gouged, whether it's in the run or the pass game. So I'm all for, even if he's a one-trick pony, like you said, and he only comes in on passing down plays at this point in the draft, I am fine with that. It's kind of where you start making moves like that as you get farther away from the top of the draft. Top of the draft, you're drafting people to play a specific position. Right. Whereas you get into the later part of the draft, you can kind of say, okay, we need a third down, what do they call it? The NASCAR package. Bring somebody in here whose only job is to rush the passer. He's not going to be in on first and second down. So I'm totally like, I look at your draft and I'm like, is it all going to be defensive linemen at some point in this draft? Like, are they ever going to draft? I mean, any offensive lineman whatsoever? I keep in my mind while you were talking, I keep thinking about like how much influence is defensive coordinator Robert Saleh going to have, for whatever guys lack, who we drafted, whatever their weaknesses are, how much can he make up for that? That's going to be the question this year, especially with a lot of it being a lot of young players. We'll see. Then you don't not have a lot of established people on this defensive line other than Nick Bosa going into next season. So Saleh's influence and his blueprint's going to have to be all over these young guys because the experience is not there for sure.
Well, that's a big conversation I think you have in the first round because you can go edge rusher or go defensive tackle. Now, again, I would go Walter Nolan, Derek Harmon, get you a higher potential defensive tackle on the interior. I think it's more needed for what they have. You love Bosa, obviously. You like Samo a lot as kind of a third, fourth edge rusher. You like Yeturkos Matos enough to keep him around. I don't think they're as thin an edge rusher, hence why I would go defensive tackle early and kind of get a Landon Jackson on day 2 or a Femi Oladejo on day 2 from UCLA or JT Tuimoloau from Ohio State on day 2, kind of a higher floor, lower ceiling guy that can just be Mr. Consistent opposite Bosa that can work on the offensive lineman. But, they got holes on the interior. Hargrave was supposed to be the kind of pass rushing, get to the quarterback guy and got hurt and really wasn't much of a factor in year 1.
What a bad signing.
Malik Collins was, I think they should have kept him, but that's just me. Malik Collins was also that pass rushing defensive tackle. I think had you already had Malik Collins, instead of Vernon Broughton, you'd go with Cameron Jackson. You'd shoot for a CJ West who just eats space. And if you walked into this year with Malik Collins and Darius Alexander and even Vernon Broughton or CJ West, like you look around and you go, okay, it's not great, but it certainly isn't bad anymore like it was last year with Evan Anderson and Kalia Davis and Jordan Elliott. There are some pieces there, although lower tier pieces. So, the building blocks aren't there. San Francisco has to kind of rebuild that foundation, which, oddly enough, they cut guys to save very minimal money on the defensive line, Floyd and Collins, but teach their own. But I think that getting Broughton, Alexander, and Michael Williams, albeit I go Mike Green, could give you that foundation again.
We will see. The draft is in next Thursday?
Days. Yeah.
8 p.m. Eastern. Can't wait. I'm so looking forward to it. Pick 147, a name we know well. Kobe Bryant.
My favorite.
Cornerback, Kansas.
Man, do I love myself Kobe Bryant. And the reason why I love this is because, one, San Francisco has very feisty cornerbacks, guys that want to fight. They want to get under your skin. They want to be that pesky gnat. And I think there is a player like that probably available earlier in the draft. Jacob Parrish from Kansas State. Shorter guy, probably going to be a nickel back at the NFL level. However, if San Francisco likes Trey Brown enough to have him be a placeholder in year one, or be a guy that plays half the year, then kind of gets you served later in the year, you like Darrell Luter Jr., you love Green, you love Lenore. When I tell you Kobe Bryant, who's a thin player, 5'10", 180 pounds, he's really thin frame. He's got long arms, though. He's sticky in man coverage. He's going to make you earn every single yard as a receiver. Again, he wants to fight you. He wants to hand fight you all the time in a good way. He very much has traits that San Francisco loves for their early day 3 cornerbacks, late day 2 cornerbacks. He wants to get under your skin. He's an opportunistic player, and he will this is my favorite trait, if he beats you and he stops you, he's going to let you know about it. He's going to get in your face. He's going to let you know. He's going to be loud, going to be obnoxious. He won't get penalized for it. He's smart, but he's going to get in your grill. I was begging the Seahawks to not trade DK Metcalf because I wanted to see him play Kobe Bryant and Lenore twice a year to see how frustrated he can get, because if he beats you, he'll be the guy down at the gym playing basketball who dunks on you, who breaks your ankles, and then walks over you, gets in your face and says, what you going to do about it? He'll be chirping at you all day. He's a willing and good tackler and run defender. He wants to get his hands dirty. And I tell you, just simply from a size standpoint and a mentality standpoint, Kobe Bryant screams San Francisco 49er defender. And I love him so much. If he's not ours this year, I'm going to be just pissed off because I want him so bad.
He sounds like a shorter version of Richard Sherman,
I won't go that far because Sherman's going to be a Hall of Famer one day.
Hall of Famer, yeah. But when you talk about a guy that liked to chirp, especially when he was successful, and Sherman is the longer, skinnier, not a really big corner as far as body mass. He was a little bit taller for sure. I'm all about defensive backs that talk trash.
Yes,
that you have to at that position. You have to have an ego at corner because you're the last line of defense. So if you're really good and you can shut down a passing game like you think that Kobe Bryant could if he became a 49er, I'm all for it. And it looks like whatever you use for the draft, whatever website that you use, they like the pick as well. You got to be on that one, man. So nice move.
Funny enough, my mid-round, my day 3 was much better according to the mock draft than my day 1. So it's very on par for the San Francisco 49ers.
Oh, unbelievable. We go to pick 194, edge rusher from Minnesota, Ja Joyner. What a name, Ja.
Which somehow got the best grade in my entire mock draft.
That's crazy.
I think Ja Joyner, and again, I traded up for this pick. I traded away 199 that we got from the Chargers and traded away 252, which was our own. So 3 straight picks, 3 straight trades, I believe, for the San Francisco 49ers. And I think, he's one of those players that you got to have an edge rusher, obviously. You got Micah Williams. You don't need to like get 4 or 5 of those guys. You just need to have good quality ones. And you have Bosa, Samo, Gross Matos. You drafted Michael Williams. You'll find guys as UDFAs and free agents, guys that can rotate. Austin Bryant's somewhere. I don't know where he's at, but he's somewhere in the room. But Jaw Joyner, 6'4", 255 pounds, 73.8 pass rushing grade, 75.4 run defense grade, 35 pressures, 4.5 sacks, a 12.8 pass rush win rate. He had a 23% pass rush win rate in 2023. So a dip in production, but with Saleh, Kosaric, you're hoping he can kind of get back to his 2023 form. He's got long arms, he's got heavy hands, and he's got that massive frame you love. Not the biggest run defender when his hand's in the dirt, so you're going to kind of have to work that out. He's a player that is kind of trying to work on his body still. Again, 6'4", 255. You want to kind of change his density level. But when you talk about getting somebody in the building that I think can outplay Robert Beal Jr. on day one, you got someone there, and Beal Jr. is somehow penciled in at DE5 on this team. So if you can get a DE5 on pick 194, that's a win for you if you're San Francisco.
That's a very, very low bar to have to jump over. Beal
You're
and
right.
Jackson.
You're
Jackson's probably not even going to play in it again.
Probably
in the
ever
NFL.
again. Yeah. Which sucks, but
Robert Beal. A lot of people call him Larry Beal, and I am one of those people too, and I don't know why. But yeah, hey, and he sounds again. Jaw Joyner almost sounds again like a pass rush. Third down. You say that he has issues with the run, at least for now, playing it, and he has to work on his body. So again, the Niners need depth.
He's one of those guys that maybe in a year you have him kind of be the inside-outside versatility player where it's like, on the NASCAR package, you're playing on the interior.
So he would be essentially another version of Gross Matos.
Exactly, which on a 1-year deal. So if you can stash him for a year, have him be somewhat of a piece, give somebody a break here or there, why not?
Right. And then we're down to 2 players. I would assume they are both 7th rounders.
Yes.
Tight end Jalen Conyers.
Conyers.
Oh my God. I'm illiterate, guys. Tight end, Texas Tech.
Yeah. So there's been a lot of smoke around San Francisco adding another tight end. They, from all indications, they love Bowling Green's Harold Fannin Jr. And I would not be shocked to watch them take him. I pick 75, pick 100, trade up for him in some round. The issue is that this is a deep tight end class, but there's so many this guy's a blocking tight end. This guy's a receiving tight end. This guy can't play in line. That guy can play in line. And even Colston Loveland, who may go in the first round this year, although I don't think it'll happen, he has some injury history. So it's kind of a pick your poison. Everyone kind of has, these kind of quirks you don't like and you love. But the Niners have talked to Jalen Conyers a handful of times during the scouting process. This past year at Texas Tech, he had 30 receptions for 320 yards and 5 touchdowns. He was out wide for 18 snaps, in the slot for 142 snaps. Again, all of his grades are good. He had a 75.2 fumble grade, a 75.4 pass blocking grade. You can kind of move him around, although I don't think he's going to be a number 2 tackle tight end on day one. You have Kittle. You like Luke Farrell enough. I don't really think that he's a player you put out there and say, go start for us, but he's a good run blocker, an 80.1 run blocking grade last year. I think he becomes your tight end 3. He's a guy who, because if you look at the kind of the structure of Luke Farrell's deal, they really aren't tied to him for a long time. So I can see if they want to stash Conyers for a year or two as Luke Farrell's contract progresses. I can see him kind of becoming a tight end 2, but it'll take a lot to get there. If you look at what he's done, he kind of eats in between the numbers over the last couple of years at Texas Tech. This past season, we had 21 of his 40 targets over the middle. He caught 18 of those passes. So he's pretty sure-handed, doesn't drop the ball very much. He's not going to give you too much yak, but he's a player that, funny enough, he can kind of give you a little more yak when he's catching the ball behind the line of scrimmage. So I wouldn't call him a gadget player, but there's something there they like. Again, I don't love him. I'm not tied to him by any means. By far not my favorite tight end, but this is what I think they could do and will do in the NFL draft. And when you talk to a guy a lot, it kind of starts to put the pieces of the puzzle together. And at 218, no harm, no foul, get you a tight end 3 that can block. And again, no block, no rock. So if you have 3 guys that can block for you, why not?
Again, with the tight ends that we've had in the past, again, not a really big high bar to jump over.
No, it's not.
Other than George Kittle. And then we go to pick 227, Craig Woodson. Yes. Not Roger
Last
Craig,
pick.
Not Rod Woodson, Craig Woodson. Safety, California.
Yeah, Craig Woodson is one of those players that I don't want to say gets overlooked because he plays at Cal, but there is something to that where you have your SEC schools, your Clemsons, you have your Ohio States, guys there that again are going to get more hype, going to get talked about more, but Craig Woodson is just an overall good player. I think he'll go earlier than this. So again, forgive the mock drafts. They're usually wrong where people go. It's always an estimate. But when you talk about, he's 6 foot, 210 pounds from California. So he's a local kid. And I've gone back and forth on this because, and I think you'll disagree with me, but I think they'll go into next year with Jair Brown and Matt Mustafa being their safeties.
No, I don't disagree with you. I have a feeling that's what it's going to be too. I'm telling myself no way because of how poorly he played in the run game in Buffalo. That game to me, his lack of run fits and just bad effort all around was rough. And I think that's why a lot of us got excited for 5 minutes when Hufanga played and Greenlaw played for that little bit of time. We were like, It feels like the old days because like they're hitting people and tackling people. But then if you watch Hufanga in one of those games, he was flying past people too. He was missing tackles as well. So as much as I don't like Jair Brown to start at safety across from Mustafa, I think you're right. It's going to happen.
When kind of in that same conversation, like they bring in Jason Pinnock, they bring in Richie Grant, they have George Odom, they have 5 safeties, if you want to call them that. And I'm not like a lot of people, I've seen them, getting Malachi Moore, who I really like from Alabama, has great ball skills, but I've seen people mocking like a safety in round 3, in round 4. And I'm like, there's no way I'm taking a safety in this class in round 3 or 4. I just can't do it. No one screams to me. You can maybe pitch me on the idea of Andrew Makuba from Texas. He can play free safety. He can play nickel. He can do all these things you like. He's one of those guys that just happens to always find himself in the right place at the right time. And sometimes you want those guys on your team. RJ Mickens from Clemson, 6 foot, 200 pounds, fits that in the box safety they like a lot. He's not going to give you that free safety stuff, but Craig Woodson does give you more of that free safety look. And I think San Francisco, if you're going to go with Mustafa and you're going to have Lenore, in this case, Kobe Bryant, Trey Brown, Bernardo Green, it will pay you, at least in my opinion. Like if you want to play single high safety, well, I want a roaming free safety. And it's one of the things that Deshaun Gibson was so good at, despite his age and despite his size. He could roam around and play center field for you. Didn't have great speed, but he'd make it up. He's a good tackler. I think Craig Woodson fits a lot of that mold for you. Again, 6 foot, 200 pounds. Although it does say as Pockets, the Cheesecake says 5 seasons at Cal, only played 4, didn't play in 2021. So
great name, by the way.
Technically, you're right. But again, nuances here. But last year was really good as a safety in coverage, an 88.6 coverage grade. He's a sure tackler, 84.1 tackling grade, and a run defender, 85.6. So overall, really good player. 73 tackles last year, only missed 8 tackles all year long for an 8.6 missed tackle rate, had 24 run stops, and allowed a 71.7 reception grade, which really isn't too bad for a safety. And at the NFL level, you look at what he's done, from a pass rating allowed, only 74.8. So there's a lot of reasons to like, Craig Woodson. I think he can be that roaming free safety, single high safety that San Francisco hasn't really had since Jimmy Ward. Now, again, I'm not calling him Jimmy Ward, but I think this team operates better when they have the Hufanga type, the hard hitting in the box safety, and they have that guy that can play center field for you, good in coverage, can bat balls down, and actually like defend the deep pass. This team at this point cannot defend the deep pass. Jair Brown's too slow, and Mustafa's great. I love him. I think he's going to be a superstar at safety for us. But if you can get some help there, because he comes downhill with like a cannonball,
Yes.
you want
Yeah,
to
he's amazing.
utilize him that way. You got to have that roaming free safety behind him. So I'd go Craig Woodson in a heartbeat.
And there you have it, people. That is your 2025 NFL draft, at least for today.
Yes, it'll change by tomorrow.
With Sterling Bennett, again, friend of the channel. Hopefully, looking forward to doing some more content as the year comes closer. Right now, I'm just kind of chilling. I started a new channel about comic book stuff, but really haven't done much with that. But I'm really looking forward to the draft. I'm not saying I disagree with like how you have things kind of, stacked as far as
Aaron, we're done. The friendship's over. No more podcasts. You hate what I did. I'm out of here, man. I'm out of here.
I don't know if the 6 people on my channel are going to be able to deal with that. No, I mean, I every mock draft that I did this past off season, I've gone edge tackle with my first 4 picks.
Right.
The only reason I say that, and they're not going to do that. I mean, it could. It's just because, like we said in the beginning of the stream, they just have put themselves in a position where nothing else really makes sense because they've gutted that defensive line so much. And, everything we got now, they're nice rotational depth pieces. I mean, we essentially need to rebuild the whole starting defensive line. Essentially, it's Nick Bosa and a bunch of castaways, the way I look at it right now. So, I do not see a trade up as much as I did report that there could be a possibility of
trade back. I don't think anyone's moving up or moving down this year.
Just based on how this draft is falling, you think a lot of people are going to stay put?
I think every team, minus the Titans and the Giants and the Browns, I think they would love to trade back. I just don't think anybody either has the picks to do so or values the first round as much as they did the past couple of years. Take the receivers, for example. The last couple of years, it's been 5 receivers each round, 8 receivers in the first round. You're like, oh my God, there's game-changing receivers out there in the first round and in the 20s in round 2, like last year. Ladd McConkey was awesome. He's a round 2 pick. Pearsall was a first round pick. You have Malik Neighbors, Marvin Harrison Jr. You have like game-changing receivers. This year, it's guys that you may like and may or may not fit your scheme. You have McNillan from Arizona, but he's more of a Courtland Sutton who you really like. But if Courtland Sutton's your one, who you like a lot, you got to have some more pieces around him. Like I love Courtland Sutton. I would have traded Aiyuk for him in a 3rd round pick last year. I was cool with that. I just don't think most teams want to move up. I don't think there's prospects to even consider moving up 4 unless you're in that, near top 10 range, which San Francisco is, but the Raiders probably get Ashton Genty. They don't want to trade back there. The Panthers have their pick of the litter at the edge rushing group. You probably don't want to trade back there. Then it's the Saints who are rebuilding, but, Kellen Moore may want to take an offensive lineman or the best player available there, which it wouldn't shock me, knowing they're probably going to be inside the top 10 a lot more going forward, especially if Derek Carr can't play, which even if he was playing, it probably wouldn't matter anyways.
Exactly.
Because he sucks.
Yeah, he's pretty bad. What's the plan for Sterling Bennett? I mean, I know a lot of, we're sharing the stream, but what's the plan going forward from now until next Thursday night as far as content goes? Because you're pretty regular with content. I am not right now this time of year. So for those of you who enjoy content all the time.
Yeah, so I recorded the video today. I have to edit it and hopefully get it out by the weekend. But it is going to be. I kind of went through the fan base and kind of got the pulse of their NFL draft hot takes, Niners or not, and I reacted to those and kind of gave the fans a voice, and kind of got what they were wanting to say out there and reacted to it. I like some, I dislike some, but I wanted to kind of get the voice of the fan base and see what they were saying as the draft approaches. Gonna have our probably final 49ers 7-round mock draft coming out on Monday. And I'm hoping on Wednesday we have a final first round mock draft, both predictive, both trying to figure out exactly what these teams are going to do this year, because it's confusing. We all have questions and we all want some answers. And I hope I can maybe give those answers to a couple of people out there. Last year, we got Pearsall right, got Grendo right. Even got Malik Mustafa right. So we have 3 hits, and hopefully we can get a couple more this year in the draft.
Speaking of him, we were talking about this not being the strongest wide receiver class. And I know Pocket says he wants to see more from Pearsall, which I agree with too. But man, if he hits and he becomes a better player this year based on this draft class, boy, do the Niners look smart. Maybe they, we don't know. We're not in the building. They could have looked ahead to another draft. They have scouts. Scouts keep in contact with the people at the top. So I'm sure they know that, with draft meetings and stuff, that maybe the receiver class that was coming out last year was significantly better than the one coming out this year. So hopefully he comes into his own this year with no tragedy this offseason. I know he's working out along with Jacob Cowing, and I think you said Garendo.
That's Kittle's out there. Purdy's been out there. There's been some guys all working together out there, probably in Nashville where Kittle lives.
I just want everybody to stay healthy, so be careful.
Yes.
We don't need any more injuries. But yeah, man, I'm looking forward to the draft next week. I think I'm going on live with Andre from Dre Area Sports. Again, with the content on the channel, I'm not as regular in the off season as I am when we have shows 3 times a week. I know you said that maybe me, you, and Andre might do something if we can get the scheduling right. And then I have some other guys that I'm trying to do stuff with. I'm just looking forward to being consistent. I think consistency is the key with content, but it's kind of nice in a way in the off season because it's the draft. The season doesn't start, so we can fantasize. We can think that the Niners are going to be incredible next season. And then, in September, when, reality sets in, then we can be depressed and angry and yell at the screen. So I kind of enjoy, I don't know about you, but I kind of enjoy this kind of time in the off season because it's all hopeful. It's all projecting what things could be. And maybe it's not going to be that, but at least we can dream about it. So thanks for coming on, bro.
Well, the off season's the one time every fan base can be optimistic for the next year.
And it's important this year because we have to be really optimistic because last year was really, really bad. They really need to slam this draft. They really don't have any choice. Right. Like you said, and I've said, like they put themselves in a position where they have to hit 65% of this draft. Get at least 5-6 starters out of it. Sounds ridiculous, but that's the truth. Like they have pieces to be filled. That's why I said your draft. I look at it, and while I love it, like if I'm drafting based on my panic or what I think the team needs, then I'm gonna go. I'm alternating defensive line to like round 5, and then it's like whatever.
Which I've done that. I've gone the first 3 picks, and it's gone tackle, edge, or edge, tackle, and said I got the 3 best guys I needed. Awesome, we're gonna be awesome next year, but. I don't know, just kind of reading tea leaves, seeing who they've talked to. I just got to wonder that the Niners, like if they walked away with this draft class, and not to kind of toot my own horn here, but, I think it's a pretty good class. And I think if they walked away with Broughton, Bryant, Giddens, Paul, Grant, Alexander, Micah Williams, I think, and I wouldn't do that pick, but if they walked away with a lot of those guys, I think every Niner fan is like, heck yes, like we won. This is great. I know some people kind of balk at running back or, a cornerback, but I think that San Francisco, they have needs there. They want to protect themselves in case some guys go down. But overall, the great thing about the NFL draft is we spend all this time scouting, watching tape, just kind of thinking and kind of talking to other people, other scouts, other content creators. What'd you see? What'd you like? And kind of getting an idea of who players are, all for that to come crashing down when that one player just sucks. And we're all like, what a waste of time that was. Like, I've been lied to. Like, take Trey Lance. And again, not to talk about him.
We're all there,
player,
dude. We all
like,
thought it. We all wanted him to be great, and we all thought he was going to be great.
Yeah, which I
Just didn't happen.
always said he's a multiple ball of clay, and it may not never work, but it's giving Kyle this kind of blob, and he can shape it to how he wants to, which didn't work out. But I just think as long as San Francisco hits, again, I don't mind being wrong on picks all day, as long as the player is good. It's not about being right on picks. It's about being right when it comes to getting the team to get the right pick to hopefully win some football games next year, because that's all that matters. I don't care who's the quarterback.
It's really a meritocracy. Nobody cares who is drafted where, as long as they're a good player.
Right.
That's it. I don't care. I really don't.
Yeah.
This team has a lot of holes, but if they can, sounds really, use that. You change the wording.
What'd you say last time that we laughed about for like an hour?
I can't. I'm not repeating that.
What was it?
I think I said something along the lines of, I don't remember. It was really perverted. It came off. I was going to say something about filling holes on a team, but I didn't say that team. So it sounded like I was about to say something really bad. But no, they have a lot of empty spots on their roster. Put it that way. So I'm looking forward to it. I know you are too. I would assume we could probably do something, or I want to do something after the draft, so we could scream at this TV screen and you could tell the Niners how bad they screwed up your mock drafts by picking all the wrong players. So
well, I'll say this: I get to do that live on 957 The Game on day 1 and 2. So you can see it live. Me with my head in my palms, being like, "What the heck? Like, what a pick is this?" But unfortunately, the moves they make, I'm not going to be shocked.
Yeah, and you're going to be right there for everybody to see. Do you guys simulcast at 95.7 The Game?
Yeah, so we'll be on the air in San Francisco, 957 The Game on the Odyssey app, and we'll also be on YouTube broadcasting. So we'll have the whole rigmarole ready to go with your draft coverage.
That's awesome, bro. And thank you so much for coming on, Sterling. You're always freaking class act. Everybody, have a great rest of your evening. Have a great weekend. And I'll hopefully see you after the draft, and maybe Sterling will too. Take care, everyone. Peace out. Go Niners.